back to Get Down to Business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. We know that organizations are constantly striving for growth, efficiency, and competitiveness, all of which demand stronger leadership on every level. Our guest today is at the forefront of developing these essential leadership capabilities. And I'm excited to introduce Greg Smith. He's the General Manager of Executive Coaching at Franklin Covey. With over 25 years of experience, Greg has helped leaders from the C-suite to the front lines develop the clarity, confidence, and capabilities needed to drive measurable results. He's instrumental in Franklin Covey's recently launched coaching suite, one of the most comprehensive leadership coaching offerings on the market. And again, super excited to welcome Greg Smith to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Shalom. It's a treat to be here.
Absolutely. Greg, organizations today are under immense pressure to grow and adapt. I mentioned that in the intro. And you often discuss coaching as strategy, not perk. Can you elaborate on why coaching has become a strategic necessity rather than just a nice to have leadership benefit?
Oh, goodness, of course. I mean, today, our leaders are facing just unprecedented disruption. The playbooks that got everybody where they are currently are invalid to a large degree. So we've all got to be working on what's that next play, what's that new skill, what's that next capability to help me survive given new challenges, new crucible moments. So hope is not a strategy. So we must be investing in today's and tomorrow's senior leadership team to make sure that they've got the capabilities we need for them to execute.
So true. And Franklin Covey's research suggests coaching can increase learning implementation by up to 400%. Wow. What factors contribute to this significant impact, and how can leaders ensure that they're seeing a real return on investment and ROI from their coaching investments?
Absolutely. Love that question. It's number one, making sure that what we're focusing on developing skill-wise is organizationally relevant. What's your organization working on and trying to accomplish? What does that mean for you and your role specifically? Then let's look at you specifically as a leader. What are your strengths? What are your development opportunities? How do we acutely focus on those things and help you build and increase that skill and unleash additional greatness?
And that's amazing. Franklin Covey is doing some pretty awesome stuff. And there are many traditional leadership programs that focus heavily on the executive tier. How is Franklin Covey using coaching to develop strong leaders across all levels of an organization, from high potentials to frontline managers?
So it's taken an intentional strategy to look and say, what do leaders at each level of the organization need, from those emerging frontline leaders up to the C-suite, and designing self-assessments or other diagnostics to help uncover your strengths, your development opportunities, to give you new insights about what will help you be more effective. And then aligning the appropriate level of coach and coaching solution, whether that's an AI coach to touch everyone, whether that's group coaching so that we can be coached in a more economic manner, but also learn from one another, or at the C-suite where you've got a much higher touch transformational coaching strategy.
I'm chatting with Greg Smith, General Manager of Executive Coaching at Franklin Covey. Greg, your new coaching suite follows a 4-step methodology for turning insight into action. Can you walk us through how that methodology works and how it helps leaders translate insights into sustainable behavior change?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a game changer. So number one, we start with alignment. And what alignment does for us in the coaching process, it includes the person we're coaching, their leader, their talent partner, to ensure what we focus on and work with that leader on is organizationally relevant, what really matters to the organization and your performance. Second stage is data. How do we use 360 assessments or other psychometric data to see how someone is wired and what their tendencies are to accelerate the self-awareness and insights that lead us to now the third step, which is coaching, true coaching, professional coaching versus advising or consulting, so that we know we're using the best practices at creating, cultivating, changing leadership behaviors. And then the fourth stage really is transition. So we're transitioning out of the coaching. We shouldn't be there forever. We're there for a time-bound engagement to help create change and then create a sustainable transition in an ecosystem around that individual to help support them when the coach steps away.
Greg, you managed extensive client engagements with major companies like Walmart, Deloitte, and Starbucks. Can you share a brief example or a common scenario where Franklin Covey's coaching approach has driven a significant turnaround or improvement for our clients?
Oh my goodness, yes, of course. And so this is name agnostic. One specific client had a leader who had identified a need of needing to demonstrate leadership courage, stepping into those uncomfortable moments and speaking up and having his voice heard. After about a 6 to 9 month coaching engagement with one of our coaches, he excitedly updated the coach to say it happened today. Now, this was one time, one meeting alone, but this leader spoke up and intervened and saved, I'll say it's multiples of 10 millions of dollars for the organization by demonstrating that new executive capability that he had identified, knew he needed to work on, and strengthened in partnering with his coach.
That's amazing. And we're going to have to cut to a break in just a minute. But for a business leader or decision maker listening right now who's considering investing in leadership coaching for their organization, what's the single most important piece of advice that you'd offer them?
Oh my goodness. Now, and I just had an article published today about this, is lean into transition moments. Anytime you're hiring or promoting a leader into a new role, new position with a new remit, broader span, global, et cetera, consider how you support them through that transition curve, those transition moments via coaching. Increase their self-awareness about what got them here and what's going to get them to the next level around their sponsor team, around their stakeholders, their team, their direct reports. There's a myriad of things that they need to proactively be thinking through and strategizing for to accelerate through the transition moment faster and more successfully.
How do you see the future of leadership development evolving, and what should organizations be preparing for now?
Oh my goodness. I think we said this earlier, but we're seeing a profound shift. You know, our world's defined by constant disruption, hybrid workforces, generative AI. Then today's leader, really, certainly tomorrow's leader, has got to adapt and be ready to pivot, to address these challenges in a more capable way. So that means our leadership development strategies, our techniques, our learning assets have got to be embedded in the way people naturally learn and work. Secondly, they need to be adaptive and agile as we continue to flex to seemingly never-ending disruption. And third, Shalom, is they've got to be deeply human. That's the piece of this equation that makes us unique and keeps us valuable in the world of AI and generative AI is, help us harness what keeps us unique, our ability to cultivate genuine, empathic, inclusive, and trusting relationships and create followership in our organizations.
Greg, I know you're a contributing writer for Forbes Coaches Council. So what are some of the emerging trends or skills that you believe will be most critical for leaders in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is I think that you speak to the skills, and the other then being to the techniques. So that, skills, trust. Trust is important now. We're in a trust crisis, but the trust is paramount going forward, like I mentioned, with the disruption and with the growth of AI impacting how everyone leads. We can't rely on standard leadership paradigms working for us. We need to increase trust. More leaders are having to lead through influence versus the old traditional patterns of command and control, or because I say people do. So I've got to develop stronger influence strategies. With that is executive presence and impact. How am I showing up as a leader? So those are some of the top skills. Some of the top strategies then would be, how do I effectively cascade and scale coaching? So we're seeing we've seen a growth in the last few years of technology-driven coaching, AI coaches, et cetera. You can do that and you create little change, but to create transformational, lasting change in leaders, we've got to balance the human element of a good human coach using techniques to help you increase your self-awareness, gain insights, and build skills. So we're seeing that in group coaching, team-based, cohort, cadre-based coaching, whether it's cross-functional groups or it's intact teams.
All right. And lastly, Greg, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Where can our listeners learn more about Franklin Covey's executive coaching practice and the new coaching suite that we've talked a little bit about today?
Absolutely. Visit franklincovey.com, or you could go to franklincovey.com/coaching.
Amazing. Greg, thank you so much for sharing your invaluable expertise on leadership coaching. We'll link in the show notes so you can find out more about Franklin Covey's executive coaching and the new coaching suite. And believe it or not, that's a wrap for us this week on Get Down to Business, the show all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. I've learned so much from all of our guest today. We talked about Latinas in law enforcement, some truly inspirational lessons there. We chatted a little bit about the work-life balance and aiming not for perfection, but setting up those small milestones. And I know I talked to you listeners a couple of minutes ago, and we talked a little bit about using the summer to reset, refresh, and I always use a military term, PMCS, to do the preventative maintenance checks and doing that preventative maintenance on yourself over the summer to continue to invest in yourself. And of course, finally finishing our conversation here today on Get Down to Business with the one and only Greg Smith from Franklin Covey, and talking about leadership coaching and how important it is. So much that we've learned today. And each and every week, we try to bring these insights. I love to hear from you listeners. Would love to hear what you're thinking about, what you're talking about, what's keeping you up at night. Get in touch with me on my website, syklein.com. Go on your favorite podcast app, search for Get Down to Business. Make sure, friends, you rate, review, and share so others can find it. To success, let's get down to business. We'll see you next week.